Step inside any boardroom across the construction, plant hire, or demolition sectors today, and you will be drowned in a sea of carbon neutral pledges. The industry is gripped by an evangelical zeal to paint itself green, or at least to be seen as green. Yet beneath the slick marketing campaigns and the carefully curated LinkedIn updates, a deeply uncomfortable question is beginning to whisper its way through the muck and machinery of real-world job sites. Is sustainability actually sustainable? For a sector that operates on razor-thin single-digit margins, where a sudden shift in the weather or a ruptured hydraulic hose can wipe out a week's profit, the economic reality of the green transition is proving to be a bitter pill to swallow. The hard truth is that looking after the planet is staggeringly expensive. We're being asked to trade proven, highly efficient, and predictable operational modes for unproven technologies and materials that carry eye-watering price premiums. And at some point, the commercial mathematics will need to face a day of reckoning. Now, nowhere is this economic friction more visible than in the headlong rush toward plant electrification. To listen to the mainstream trade press, you'd think that diesel was already dead and that every site in Britain will soon be humming to the quiet whine of battery power by the weekend. But ask any independent fleet manager who actually signs the checks, and they'll tell you a very different story. An electric zero-emission compact excavator or dumper doesn't just carry a slight premium, it frequently lands on the ledger at nearly twice the capital cost of its diesel counterpart. For a mid-sized plant hire outfit or a specialist demolition contractor, swallowing a 100% price hike on initial asset procurement requires a heroic leap of faith. The standard industry justification is that lower running and maintenance costs will eventually balance the books over the machine's life cycle, which sounds wonderful on a spreadsheet, but it completely ignores the terrifying question mark hanging over residual asset value. The global used equipment market thrives on the certainty of the diesel engine. A contractor knows exactly what a 10-year-old Cat or Komatsu dozer is worth, and they know it can be sold onto a buyer anywhere across the globe to run for another decade. The secondary market for electric plant is, at best, unproven, and at worst, non-existent. Nobody has the foggiest idea how a degraded battery pack will hold up after 7 years of pounding concrete and sitting in frozen mud. If the battery requires replacement, the cost could easily eclipse the remaining residual value of the entire asset, rendering the machine a worthless write-off. Until the secondary market establishes a solid floor, buying electric remains a high-stakes gamble that many independent operators simply can't afford to take. And the financial pain is by no means confined to the plant yard. Move over to the material supply chain and the picture becomes even more challenging. Because cement production stands as one of the world's most notorious carbon culprits, the pressure to adopt green concrete formulations is immense. Contractors are being actively encouraged and mandated to swap out traditional standard Portland cement for alternatives using ground granulated blast furnace slag, or GGBS, or pulverized fuel ash. The upfront invoice for these low carbon mixes routinely carries a premium of 15 to 30%. In isolation, that's a heavy hit, but the true commercial sting lies in the operational fallout. GGBS mixes can take significantly longer to cure and achieve full structural strength, particularly during a standard British winter. On a fast-paced urban site, a slow cure rate triggers a catastrophic domino effect. A similar story unfolds when you examine mass timber and cross-laminated timber, or CLT, frequently championed as the ultimate carbon capture and replacement for traditional structural steel frames. And on paper, building a multi-story commercial development out of engineered timber is a beautiful narrative. On the balance sheet, however, the material costs regularly outstrip steel by more than 10%. Yet, the real barrier is not actually the material cost, it's the insurance industry. In the wake of major regulatory overhauls, insurers have become deeply wary of structural timber in commercial property. Securing construction risk insurance has become a bureaucratic nightmare. The insurance premiums can skyrocket to such an extent that they completely obliterate any theoretical long-term energy savings, proving that green design can be easily strangled by financial reality before the keys are even handed over. In the demolition trade, processing crushed concrete on site to create recycled Type 1 subbase is often held up as the gold standard of circular efficiency. Yet the cost of equipment, fuel, and paying for laboratory testing to certify the aggregate to strict highway standards can often cost more per tonne than ordering virgin stone from a local quarry. Beyond the physical assets and materials, there's a quieter, insidious cost that is slowly choking independent contractors. It's green bureaucracy. To even set foot on a modern major site, a business must navigate a dizzying labyrinth of green verification schemes, carbon accounting standards, and sustainability certification boards. Satisfying these organisations is not just a matter of doing good work, it requires a staggering administrative effort. Contractors are forced to invest thousands of pounds in specialist software to track scope emissions, pay hefty annual subscription fees to validation bodies, and hire dedicated sustainability compliance officers simply to handle the endless questionnaires. Smaller operations find themselves buried under mountains of paperwork, paying third-party consultants to prove they're as green as they claim to be. This administrative tax doesn't pour a single yard of concrete or demolish a single building, but it adds a massive permanent overhead to the cost of doing business. Even the basic consumables required to keep an operation moving are subject to this green premium. Think about the transition to biodegradable oils and synthetic ester lubricants. For any contractor working near riverbanks, canals, or sensitive infrastructure, the environmental argument is clear. A single blown hydraulic hose can instantly dump litres of mineral oil into the ecosystem, resulting in crushing fines and astronomical soil remediation bills. Switching to biodegradable fluids, therefore, seems logical until you look at the price. The upfront cost for premium synthetic esters can be 40% higher than traditional mineral oils. It represents yet another instance where the contractor is forced to pay a heavy upfront cash premium today simply to mitigate a theoretical risk tomorrow. Now, none of this is to suggest that the construction and demolition sectors should turn their backs on environmental stewardship. As an industry, we have a profound responsibility to innovate, reduce waste, and mitigate our impact on the world around us. But if we are to have an honest, straight-talking conversation about the future, we need to discard the corporate fluff and address the financial reality head-on. Sustainability can't merely be an exercise in environmental piety. It needs to make economic sense. We can't build a green future on a foundation of bankrupt contractors and broken plant hire firms. Until the legislative frameworks, client budgets, and technology life cycles adapt to support the true cost of green alternatives, asking the supply chain to carry this financial burden alone is fundamentally unsustainable.